Callaway just launched the new Elite line of metalwoods, fairways, hybrids, and some irons in the mix as well. Today we'll break down the drivers, really who they're for, as well as the irons, and just really help you guys with your game make the right decision of which model could be for you. But before we get into it, let's talk about the drivers and really some of the features that they share. And the first one is their thermo-forged carbon crown, just the latest generation of their composite crown, and in many drivers as well the body. Really what that is just weight savings that the engineers can then take that saved weight and put it somewhere else in the driver depending on that particular model, what it's supposed to do. Also have their AI 10X face, just the latest generation of their AI design face, which now just has 10 times more control points across the face. So now the faces are not just about fast ball speeds, there's also some forgiveness and a directional aspect to them as well. Let's start talking about the individual models, and the one I'm holding here is the Elite in the triple diamond. And this will be the one visually you're going to see a little bit of a different look compared to the rest of the line. It is the only one that really has the gloss black finish on the crown. The rest of them have more of a matte or even a charcoal finish to the crown. So it's a little bit more of a traditional look, which is really just because of who this driver is designed for. 450cc head. We've got a 14 gram and a 2 gram movable weight front to back. This one also has a complete 360 composite body. Some of the other models do have some composite in the sole. This is the one where it's almost entirely composite the entire way around. Let's talk about some of the design features with these adjustable weights. So when you put the heavy weight in the front, we have the MOI coming in at about 4,200, what you'd expect for a smaller profile low spin driver. Put the heavy weight in the back, it gets up to 4,600. A decent level of MOI and forgiveness whenever it comes to a driver of this size. Now as far as CG location, both settings have the CG about 1.5 millimeters into the toe, so just the slightest amount of fade bias, pretty much neutral. But we do see a CG height of 1.5 millimeters with a heavy weight in the front, very low, and only 2.5 when you have it in the back. So you really get to choose between extremely low spinning or just low spinning, depending on which one you need. If you want a little bit of forgiveness but still low spin, heavy weight goes in the back. If you want super low spin and you hit the middle of the face more often than not, you can probably put that heavy weight in the front. But now let's move on to some of the other model drivers that we have here as well. And the first one we are going to talk about is the Elite X. So we have an adjustable weight for either neutral or in a draw setting, and whenever we move those around we do see some changes in the MOI. So with the weight in the back, MOI comes in at about 5,500, really high MOI. This will be the highest MOI in the line. Move the weight into the heel, still pretty high, it's 5,200. Anytime you get an MOI over 5,000, that is pretty forgiving. But now let's talk about the amount of CG movement across the face, because we do see quite a bit here. For starters, 3.25 millimeters high, so higher than we saw at the triple diamond, but not high by any means. We see 1.5 millimeters into the heel whenever you have the CG in the neutral setting. Whenever you move that CG all the way into the draw setting, we see it go all the way to 5.25 millimeters into the heel. This is going to be one of the most draw bias drivers out there when it comes to CG location. And then just because we mentioned it, you can start to see that composite crown has more of a charcoal or just a matte finish relative to that of the triple diamond. Now, next one up, let's go into our Core Elite. So this model we do see adjustability in the neutral and the draw setting, similar to the X, but we also then have a fade setting, and this is a 13 gram weight back here. So in this particular model we get the most horizontal adjustment. We get a little over 6 millimeters of total swing. Whenever you have it in the center weight, we see a CG of 0. It's about as neutral as you can make it. Move it into the heel, it goes 3.25. Move it into the toe, it goes 3. So you have 3 millimeters on either side of the center of the face. You can pretty much make this do whatever you want. And then we have a weight in the front. It's essentially fixed just because the weight that we have in the rear does not work in the front. From the factory, you can do a little bit of tweaking here if you need to, just to make it a little bit heavier. That will move the CG a little bit lower and change the MOI a little bit as well. But CG height, 3.5 millimeters high, so again, pretty much a mid-level neutral height CG like we saw with the X. and MOI comes in at 51, not quite 5,200. So really it's a very forgiving driver with a lot of horizontal versatility. This is the one you can pretty much make work for anybody. If you're not sure which one to test and you're just grabbing it off the rack, starting with the Core Elite, yeah, you can't go wrong. Now let's move into our Elite Max Fast. And this one's pretty interesting. It's a lightweight driver. It's only about 193, 94 grams with the club head. So it is designed to, again, be a little bit more of a lightweight driver for people with moderate to slow swing speeds, help them gain them a little bit of speed back. But typically what we see in these lighter weight drivers is the MOI goes really low. Not the case of the Max Fast. It's actually at 5,200. So it's a very high MOI, very neutral CG, and really just meant to be a lighter weight, higher launching driver. Again, people need to get the ball in the air and swing a little faster. This is a great one because you do have some adjustability to dial in the horizontal aspect, but it's really meant to be a higher MOI for the lightweight. This is an awesome one to test out if you do need that speed and you want to hit it high. So now we're going to start talking about the irons. I'm going to try to work from most amount of offset, so helping to fight that fade, to the least amount of offset. And that means the first one we are going to talk about here is the X, so let's track that guy down. So we've got our Elite X, and then they've also got the HL, the Max Fast, and then just the core model that we'll talk about. But let's talk about shared features first, and then we'll break down each model. And the first one's going to be their speed frame design, and really what that is just the construction of the framing, the face, and the rear badging, and how those all come together to basically stiffen up the body. The stiffer the body means more energy, more ball speed transferring back into the ball, which yields the distance. But then also with the rear badging and some of the technology that goes into that, there is a vibration dampening aspect as well, which again, a lot of the OEMs, the manufacturers, are doing similar. This is more than just a piece of plastic in the back of the club. That helps some of these hollow body design irons still feel like a very one-piece construction. And really, Callaway's done an awesome job with that rear badging. It's really just aesthetically a very nice iron to look at. They've also implemented their AI 10X face into the iron, so different designed faces across the line, again, just depending on what the particular iron is supposed to do. And then we've got a tri-sole design in all of these. And with the gloss finish, it gets hidden a little bit, but there is a bit of a bevel to the front and the rear. And really what that's designed is to prevent excessive digging, say, if on those heavy shots, while still having a good amount of camber and some radius to the sole as well, to provide a level of relief. So if you do hit it a little bit heavy, the club's not going to want to dig quite as much, but while still having a leading edge that can cut through some rough if you do find yourself there. Let's talk about the Elite X though. And this particular model is really designed for distance. So this is the distance iron of the bunch. They're all going to go really far, but this is the one with the strongest loft. So we see 28 degrees in the 7 iron and 4 millimeters of offset. So this is going to be your slice fighter. Should be the lowest launching of the bunch, and again, all else being equal, should be the one that goes the farthest if this is the one you need. Because there are some people that actually benefit a little bit more from the HL design. And we've been seeing this trend recently in years where we've seen a movement back towards what is at least a little bit more traditional loft, or at least some options that have it. Because the idea of strengthening lofts is great up to a degree, but there are certain golfers that either don't swing fast enough or they're just naturally low ball flight hitters that they actually lose distance when you get those. So we see some of these HLs coming back into the mix, which I love. We see in the HL not quite as wide of a sole compared to the X, so there'll be a little more propensity to dig, but there is still, again, the tri-sole design. We see this one coming in with a 30 degree 7 iron, so 2 degrees more loft compared to the X, and 3.3 millimeters of offset. So really pretty moderate offset. So it definitely will help you to fight a slice, but I wouldn't call this an overly draw biased iron by any means. Now let's go Max Fast, and the Max Fast will be a very similar version to the HL. 30 degrees again in the 7 iron. See if we got that guy. Yep, 30 degrees in the 7 iron, very similar sole width, 3.2 millimeters in the offset. It's honestly almost the same iron, but just in a little bit lighter weight design with some lighter weight, higher launching shaft options. This is again meant to hit the ball in the air, and if you do need some speed, you've got that lighter weight option to go along with it as well. And then just the core model. And this one really looks awesome to my eye. It's going to be the thinnest sole of the bunch. So if we just get the HL back up here, slightly thinner sole, especially as you get to the heel section, if you can even see that. But there's a little bit more taper into the heel to prevent any of that catching and maybe some heavier rough. We have the least offset at 3 millimeters, and then right in the middle as far as the loft goes, 29 degrees of loft in the 7-iron. But really, whenever you put this one down, again, it's an overall what looks like more mid to slightly better player iron, I would say. Honestly, I could put this in the bag and have no problem with it. It's going to be a pretty short blade length, again, for more of a, you know, forgiving player distance kind of iron. I would say maybe it doesn't quite fall into that category, but it's a good looking club. I think a lot of people will be pretty happy with this one when they put it down with the level of forgiveness that they get from what is an overall pretty small package. So you've really got some awesome options across the entire Elite line of irons. You've got irons that are just made to hit it as far as you can with as much forgiveness as you can, and then you've got some irons that are, again, meant to hit it in the air nice and high, or the Elite is really just your all-around iron that if you're not sure where to start, can't go wrong with the Elite. Same story with the drivers. There's something for everyone. So with the Elite line, I think Callaway is definitely going to hit a home run. There's something in there for everybody, but you need to figure out which one of those is for you. And you all know the best way to do that. Log on to golftec.com and find a coach near you today.